to the Gamer Jim Show. New Age of Blow-Ups.
Hello everybody, my name is Gamer Jim. I am a Psylocke enthusiast. I love this character, and recently I found a infant with her, and it led to a lot of interest in the character between myself, Magnetro, ECD, and Taiji, as well as some other contributors. And we ended up finding a lot of tech with the character that I'm going to try to begin to document here. I'm very excited to do this. This is going to be an introductory episode where we look at her normals. We're going to be using an emulator called Demol to do so. That's what you see on the screen here. Pictured are her Hurtboxes in blue and her collision boxes in green. You'll also note a box around her leg. This is a grab range. The purple grab box must be overlapping with the other characters for a grab to take place. Also on the left, you'll see a frame counter. This will give us detailed information about her frame data. Before we start, I do want to explain that the things you see on the screen here are going to be raw data. They're objectively true. If for some reason you're playing the game and they aren't true, you're not playing the game Marvel vs. Capcom 2, or you're not playing Psylocke. When watching and rewatching this video, I encourage you to look at Psylocke's hit and hurt boxes and try to ignore her sprite. This is the information that we don't normally have access to, and it's the hidden reality of the game. With that out of the way, I think we're ready to get started. So first of all, we're going to be looking at her light attacks. This is her crouching light punch. You'll notice the sprite moves before the attack does. It is active frame 3. I think it's active for just 2 frames, and then it has 8 frames of recovery. Crouching light kick, you'll notice the hurt box appears, I think, 3 frames before it's active frame 3. 3 frames before the hitbox becomes active, and it lingers. This is punishable, but crouching light kick is still one of her best buttons, so don't bear too much mind. Following that, we have her down forward heavy punch. If you look at the left hand side, you'll see it's the down forward version. Frame 3 is its first active frame, and then this move is fantastic. It just has a huge anti-air hitbox, but the hurt box does overlap. An interesting quirk of this move is it imparts no stun onto a combo. It acts as a special move in that sense, I suppose. Now we're going to compare that to the down heavy punch. You'll notice it's actually a frame slower. It comes out frame 4 or 5, I think 4, yeah. And this anti-air hitbox is actually significantly smaller. It's much more vulnerable than the down forward version is. The main advantage it has over the down forward one is that you can cancel it into the heavy kick, and you have the options of the forward and back heavy kick, so you can continue your chain. I think we have her snapback. So after inputting it, the flash begins on frame 2. Then it takes, I believe, about 40 frames of freeze until the snap releases. At that point, it's going to take 2 more frames. So it's effectively 4 frames, maybe 5. I don't know how the math works out there. But it's a very fast snapback. And you're going to notice here, her hurt box goes from this to, as soon as it's active here, it contorts in a very strange way. And take note of this because it's going to come back later. You'll also note she has no hurt box on her legs. I'll rewind that just so we can look at it one more time. It's very interesting. So there's no blue hurt box by her leg. She's low invincible while the snapback is an active attack. So we're going to compare that to her stand heavy punch now. She's going to cock back and throw it. It is 5 frames until it's active, yep. And you can see that beautiful disjoint over here on the right, cut through stuff like a hot knife through butter. There's another interesting distinction here between the 2 moves, which is that her collision is remarkably different between the 2. So when we do the snapback, you'll notice her collision, the green box, is actually much further behind her. It's over here by her back foot, right? And then when we do stand heavy punch, it's actually centered around her. That makes it so that when she gets hit, if she gets hit during snapback, she'll kind of jerk all the way back to the position on the left. But the same isn't true for the stand. So we have her sweep here. This is going to hit on frame 4. For a sweep, this move actually hits very high, and you'll notice the hitbox lingers after. You can kind of anti-air with it a little bit. Like you can hit a low flying sentinel with that move. Here we have her forward dash, and this is very important to her kit. So it's worth noting we inputted the dash. one frame ago, and she immediately becomes small. Okay, her hurtbox is in front of her collision. Okay, so that means you can kind of push yourself into the opponent's, at least the vulnerable part of yourself, which allows you to avoid a lot of attacks. I think this is common knowledge, is that you can use the dash to avoid stuff. But it's worth noting that we have a couple frames until this is frame 2. She hasn't really begun to travel. So frame 3, she begins to actually move. That means you can dash repeatedly and not really travel and keep yourself small. And you would think that the legs are vulnerable here, they just aren't. It takes about 13 frames. I believe in the 14th frame, she will stand up again and her hurtbox will return to normal size. Could be sooner than that. Yep. And next we're going to look at her backdash, and her backdash has a similar but opposite effect of being low and vulnerable. Her hurtbox isn't displaced to the same degree, but combining the two dashes, you can effectively toggle being high and low invincible, which is crazy. Next up, we're going to be looking at her jump light punch. This is another great move. It's active on the 3rd frame, and I believe it remains active for 10 frames. This is just another one of her best buttons, as is jump light kick. I mean, just what a button. Jump light kick extends her hurtbox upwards, and it lingers there, but the move is very active. It's good for hitting things above you, obviously. Jump Fierce, this is an interesting one. So it's only active for 3 frames, but I didn't understand how big the disjoint on that hitbox is. And the lingering punishable part is not that big. That move is much better than I thought, and of course, Jump Roundhouse is much worse than the sprite would imply. You'll see that the hitbox is very small relative to the extended hurtbox. You'll also notice, you might notice here, as she recovers, she goes from being, her hurtbox just about doubles in size. We'll get into that later, probably in another video. This is her jump up roundhouse. This is, in my opinion, her best button. It's active frame 3. The first hit has 2 active hitboxes, and this is the second hit you see here. It's a very big button. It's very hard to trade with. It recovers very quickly. It allows you to, it has a ton of hits done. It allows you to pressure safely, double jump to safety after, juggle easily in normal or super jump. And here we have a forward roundhouse. This is, funny enough, does this look familiar to anybody? Believe it or not, it took, I couldn't believe it when I put this together. This is the same hit and hurtbox and configuration as her snapback. You can overlay these two. They're the same. This kind of explains why the snap is low invincible, but it doesn't explain why. This clearly looks like the hitbox to the fierce, right? And then we look at the forward roundhouse. Why does it have a hitbox there? It clearly needs a hitbox right here, but not one right here. So it's kind of like a Frankenstein mod. It's just a very unusual hurtbox too, right? It extends very far forward in front of her face. It's very bizarre. I really, this is what's so exciting about playing Psylocke to me, is like what the hell was going on? Continuing, we're going to look at her background. This move is also very quirky. This is frame 1. She goes airborne. You'll notice she no longer has a green box around her. That means her collision is gone. You can just go clean through her as long as she's airborne there. This hurtbox, that hitbox is slightly of note. It is disjointed above and in front of her, and her hurtbox is pretty small. This move anti-air as well. And should it trade, keep in mind your collision is all the way to the left. This is useful because if you trade, you'll be teleported to the left again, kind of like I mentioned with her snapback. Now we'll have the roll forward. This essentially just acts like her dash, like the back half of her dash. And I believe that's just about it for normals. We didn't go over her jump medium punch or medium kick. They're not particularly of note. The medium punch links well into other buttons, but it functions very similar to her jump light kick. And her medium kick is notable in that, her jumping medium kick that is, It's notable in that it's her only air normal outside of Jump Fierce that helps bring the opponent down. We'll get into why this is useful in another episode, but that's the end of the episode 1 of her normals. I hope that you guys learned something. If you have questions, feel free to ask. Feel free to rewatch. I'm really excited to show you guys more Psylocke stuff and just really break this character open.